your agentic framework, like you want to achieve some kind of accuracy, performance, or depending on the application, you have a specific goal, and whether you are meeting that goal, whether it is good for deployment, that's where you need to have a very standard and a very sophisticated evaluation set for your specific purpose. Last but not the least is the safety and reliability, which is super important when it comes to agent, because before you deploy, you want to make sure your agentic system is very safe, secure, and it is dealing with inputs and outputs in a very responsible manner. So let's get into the dimensions of evaluation. The first one is task success, where we are evaluating it based on how well it can do the task given and accomplish a particular goal. Second one is the accuracy and factuality, where you are understanding how accurate the system is and how factually correct it is. Third one, an important one, is the safety and responsibility, how the safe the system is, how responsibly and ethically it is behaving. On the fourth, we have robust and reliability, where we are checking how robust, how well it can handle edge cases, how robust our system is. Fifth one is efficiency, where we are looking into the tool usage, cost, APIs, token input, output, what is the end-to-end latency, how many agents or calls or functions it is calling, to look it into a holistic perspective and say that, okay, we can potentially improve some of those aspects on that side. Sixth one is a very difficult one to evaluate, but it is also important in today's world because reasoning and planning are basically bread and butter for almost all the agentic system which will be coming out in the future and even right now. So we talked about dimension. Let's talk a little bit more about methods. One is the outcome-based method, where you're directly checking the output and checking the ground truth, seeing whether what is the discrepancy, what is the rate of success in there. Second one is the thought analysis, where you are moving from outcome-based to understand what are the intricacies and the basic thought process of your agents. You might be having multiple agents, all of them might be, some or all of them might be having different LLMs. So you want to understand in detail how each of them are doing. Third one is the tool usage, where we are trying to understand what are the different tools which is used on dynamic basis and whether they are needed, and if they needed, how well all those tools are performing, if the input output of those tools are what we are expecting it to be. Fourth one is the benchmark testing, where we are testing the performance of the models and the agents on a standard benchmark. Fifth one is the human in loop, in which to assess the quality and the reasoning capability as well as the safety aspect of the model. Humans are needed for the evaluation purpose and make sure the performance is up to what a particular set of labelers or humans are accessing is up to the mark. Sixth one is the resource usage, where we are looking into the standard matrices like latency, computation cost, API cost, and everything to understand and evaluate the agent. Now let's deep dive into the first one, which is task success and goal accomplishment. The main aspect that we are talking about here is, was the entire task addressed on the completeness? How how correct the output is based on the task definition? Does the agent stay on the topic and address the core request? Does the agent actually follow a particular constraint given to it? To evaluate the task success, we can do a very simple, like a binary success classification. And then we can look into the task completion rate, where we say that percentage of successful tries over different type of runs, including the failed one, and try to see like if it is able to do the task in the right manner. Then we can have a graded score, where instead of just doing a binary in and out, 0 and 1, you are grading it on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. Human evaluation is definitely important, not only for the task success, but almost for every other task, because you would want to make sure that whatever the evaluation framework you have, either through machine scripts or any kind of automated checks or golden data set, there is some kind of human involvement for a high confidence thing. And the last one is automated check, where you have a standard, let's say, golden data set or verifying input output through some script or automated way. Second one is the accuracy and factuality. The key aspect that we are trying to address here is whether the information, the claims that is provided by your agentic system is factually correct or not. What is the rate of hallucination that you have? Is your source grounded? And whether the content is up to the mark, what is the freshness of the content? The main methods for this one would be fact checking, where you are either manually or through an automated way checking whether the facts are correctly evaluated. What is the rate of hallucination that you have in your agentic system? What is a citation accuracy? That means for a particular set of prompts or inputs to the agentic system, you know that there are certain very relevant documentation that should be present, like, for example, a government doc or a very specific blog or something. So, understanding whether your retrieval system, either RAG or something, whatever you are using, it's retrieving the right documents, and those documents are ranked in the right manner, so that the proper citations of any of the factual results or something is correct. Last one would be a human judgment, where irrespective of whatever we have done right now, we still want to have a human in loop to make sure that our evaluation of factual and accuracy is correct. The third one that we have is safety and responsibility, which is a super important aspect. The key things that we are trying to address or ask here is that what is a bias associated with this particular agent? Is it mitigating it or is it amplifying it? Ethical compliance. Does your agent follow a specific guidelines or a rule of engagement? Privacy protection, whether the agent is revealing any kind of information which is sensitive, PII, or anything. Harm avoidance, where we are saying that is our agent uh, refraining from any kind of toxic or illegal or hateful content. When it comes to the evaluation method, first, the standard and a very uh, primitive way would be to see how the agent is doing on the safety benchmark, which is already out available there, which is which will provide some kind of grounding or an initial assessment of your agent system, but that is not completely foolproof because your agent would be deployed in a particular scenario, solving a particular problem. It may or may not be fully kind of like covered in that particular benchmark. So you would want to have your own red teaming, which is responsible for creating the safety guidelines and also having all kind of inputs, prompts, and calling the services in a way that it breaks the underlying kind of like a violation, or it try to just game the system. So that's where the red teaming comes into picture to make sure our agentic system and underlying LLM, the responses, analysis, and everything, planning whatever the agent is doing, it's run in the right manner. Content classifier is another great way. So all the policies, integrity guidelines, or the different aspect that you want to take care of, whether it's a bias, borderline content, PII, toxicity, or like political content, or anything, whatever you want your agentic system to be um, uh, confined or basically not to respond to these kind of things, that's where you need a content classifier to understand the input given by the users or output given by the agent or intermediate steps to see if any of these guidelines are getting violated. If it is, then you would want to take an appropriate step to make sure none of that happens. And human reviewer is definitely super important in this aspect too. Coming to the robustness and reliability, the key aspect that we are trying to address or ask here is what is the error recovery rate and how well the agentic system can recover from a particular error, how well it responds to the adversarial attack, like jailbreaking, how consistent your system is, whether for the similar input, is it like giving similar output, or there is a lot of divergence or non-deterministic nature in the agentic system, and how well it can handle the edge cases. So in the evaluation method, the first one would be the perturbation based, where you add particular noise or disturbances or degrade or improve the input prompt or the input, uh, mm, mm, whatever the input you have, and to see what is the performance drop is there in the agent. Second is to do the adversarial testing, which are like known attack methods that we have, like jailbreaking, prompt injection. Third one would be the stress testing, where you evaluate performance under a huge load and very complex scenarios. Basically, whether your system can scale pretty well when you have a lot more APIs or like prompt of different length, different variability, diversity called like suddenly. Failure rate is the last one where you are checking where how often the task failed due to the internal errors as well as the external one. Efficiency is another good one where the key aspect that we are trying to address here is that what is the latency of your agent system end to end, whether user given input and the output. And you would also want to understand the latency in the intermediate step, not just the input and output, to fully grasp and have a very clear and a transparent understanding of what exactly is happening inside your agent system within different calls, within different tools. Token consumption, very important for the cost, because everything that you are doing in your agentic system, you are basically driving a lot of that thing from LLM, and those are expensive. If you can save on computation or token cost, you are going to save a lot, like in a very scalable manner. Um, and then other thing that we care about is what is the CPU, GPU memory usage, API call, and different task steps or number of interaction that is basically taken by your AI agent and underlying LLMs powering them. Evaluation method would be you have a standard clock time, token counter, understand for which model, which LLM, how many input output tokens are there, then do an offline analysis of those things to see what is the component of cost in your entire agentic framework that is contributed by the tokens. Have the API logs, track numbers and cost of API interaction, having a profiler tools to measure the CPU, memory, bandwidth, and different kind of systematic aspect of your agentic system. Last, super important and super hard to measure would be the reasoning quality, in which the key aspect that we are trying to solve here is logical soundness. How well the reasoning is basically formed by your agent, whether it's following a logical principle, how well the agent can actually decompose a problem and break down a big task into a smaller one. What is the accuracy of each intermediate steps within an agent, a LLM tool, whatever the different ways you are trying to evaluate and go through different steps that is going in your agent from input to output. And then how well it can explain your thought process, reasoning process, break down the bigger task into a smaller one. For evaluation, you have some reasoning benchmark, but again, for your specific problem deployed in a particular scenario, it may or may not fit, but it is always good to make sure that your agentic system is doing decently well on the reasoning benchmark and have a particular threshold for benchmark to make sure you need to have certain basic reasoning quality is present in your agentic framework, irrespective of the use case. Second would be the human evaluation, or using LLM as a judge also, but again, that comes with its own bias, and there are other different aspect and complexity associated with that. You would want to have the human evaluator, which rate the quality and the clarity of the agent. And then we have the plan validation, checking if the generated plans are executable, whether it's logically sound. Chain of thought validation and understanding, where you're evaluating the quality and correctness of reasoning steps. This is great. We have talked about the dimension in detail. What are the different aspects? What are different evaluation methods that we have? Now let's talk a little bit more about challenges. The first challenge that we have right now is the scalability one. Uh, as you might have seen that in all the evaluation aspect, we are talking about human in evaluation because it is important. They are the final benchmark, or you can say the post, like final red and green flag has to be done by human, looking into all the aspects of agentic framework and evaluating it in the right manner with machines, with whatever the scripts and other methods you have, benchmarks and all. With that, you will still want to have like some sampling or evaluation done by human. Human evaluation is costly. It is error prone. Sometimes the guidelines are too intensive, and you see the discrepancy in the um, basically the quality labeling. Second challenge is the standardization. For specific LLM, you have a lot of benchmark and all, whether it comes to the reasoning, agentic, coding, high school, maths, and other things. You have a lot of those benchmarks. But for agentic framework, it is very hard to have the benchmark because every agent is like different in its own purpose. Like there are different use case. The input output goal is different. One might be deployed in hospitality, other might be deployed in healthcare. So There is no standard benchmark that we have. Third one is the explainability, which is very hard because LLM itself are like a black box kind of thing. There is a recent research work which is done, which is trying to understand a little bit more about how the LLM thinks. But again, this is still uh, pretty hard to explain what is going on within LLM. So when it comes to agent, it's get much little bit more complicated because you're not talking only about LLM, but you're talking about different interactive agents and tools with that. Abstract concept like reasoning, chain of thought, it's very hard to evaluate basically in a way. Fifth one is the reproducibility, where you know that the agents are always not um, very deterministic, right? Because it might dynamically take the tool, like a small change in the prompt might change the workflow for you, for the agent, and it might call more or different APIs. The routing might be different. So there are a lot of different ways in which sometimes the reproducibility is not very clear or very evident from in a complex agentic system. And this space is evolving, usage is evolving, the data is evolving a lot. So there would be a data drift, which we would want to avoid. So we have to iterate over to our evaluation data set, whatever the golden data set we have, our different way to do the reasoning. A new LLMs are coming. You're replacing the LLMs in your, which is underlying powering your agent system. So making sure you are taking everything into consideration. So yeah, this is great. We talked a lot about evaluation, a little bit about designs of agentic system. What are the different dimension challenges? So I think this pretty much covers the talk. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and you have my email ID. Feel free to send me an email. I'm looking forward to connect with you guys, and thank you very much again for your, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Aditya. The workshop was great, and I hope that everybody enjoyed it. And that was the last workshop that we had prepared for today. So remember that just after the stream, so in 15 minutes, there's a Q&A session happening on our Discord server. So make sure to tune in and also make sure to stay connected. This is your final reminder to follow us on social media to get the latest updates, hackathon highlights, tips and tricks, and some fun content and sneak peek for the future AI challenges. So whether LinkedIn, X, Instagram, Discord, or Facebook, we are all there. Also, do not forget to tag us when you post about your hackathon experience. So, whether you're sharing your project, your struggles, or your caffeine fueled AI breakthroughs, we want to see that. Tag us and get a chance to get featured. So tune it for the Q&A session where we will answer all your burning questions that you might have. And there's also another one on Sunday at 6 p.m. CET. So just make sure to join on our Discord. And also, there's one more hackathon that you might try to join to keep the momentum going after finishing this one. This is the Zero Limit Hackathon with Trey that we just announced yesterday. So if you'd like to explore it, head out to LabLab.ai hackathons and check all the details. This is a very fun challenge with $5,000 in prizes, so we highly recommend joining the next one. Of course, after completing this one. So now it's time to start coding. I'd like to wish you best of luck and see you on the winner stream. Good luck, coders.